Hey Book Crows, I'm Beryl. I'll be your host today, and I'm joined by my co-host Thyme. Today we will be discussing The Girl with No Reflection by, I just researched it, Keshe Chow. I believe I pronounced that correctly. My apologies if I did not. Before we get into it, Thyme, what books have you... Oh my god, we just did this.
This is a twofer, so we're recording the same day as And They Were Roommates. So I'm still reading Sword Crossed. I am on page 234 out of... How long is this book, actually? It's only 370 pages!
Wow.
Wow.
I mean, the book is pretty tall.
Yeah, it is pretty tall, and, small writing. I think it's like 11 point font. But yes, we had to record twofers because Beryl had to move.
Yeah, I'm no longer in Oregon. Sadness. And it is incredibly hot today, and it's been a heat wave, and my dorm does not have a good AC. So I'm still reading Phoenix Keeper too.
Yes. I will actually name a couple of the books that I bought, though, because I didn't do that in the last one. I actually bought, it's a trilogy of books by Silver Ravenwolf, and one that I'm actually staring at right now is To Ride a Silver Broomstick. I wanted to get them since I first was introduced to the concept of things like Wicca and stuff like that. And, they're a classic in that regard. I also got a encyclopedia on divination from Llewellyn's.
Oh, yeah.
I'm very excited about that.
We had to break the formula that we wrote up just because we were doing 2 in a day.
Yes.
It's a short intro today for both of them, actually. So now, on with the show. I wrote a very short summary that does not include nearly as much details as your summaries, but your summaries go into a lot of details compared to mine.
Yes.
Regardless, let's get into it with, I'm going to say some characters of note first, so that we can keep in mind who I am talking about. We've got main character Ying, our leading lady. We've got, and I did look up how to pronounce this. The best I can figure out how to pronounce it is Jean, which I know sounds French. I'm not pronouncing it perfectly correctly, but my brain is like, okay, it feels close enough to Jean. It is Z-J-A-N-G. Which the ZJ makes the J sound in Chinese.
Okay.
And then on, Jean. Not pronouncing it perfectly, but I'm trying, I swear. We've got Mei Po, the Empress, and the Emperor. Those are the 5 characters I want us to keep in mind through this thing.
And do the Emperor and Empress have a name, or are they just set by their title?
They're pretty much just by their title. I think they mentioned their name once for the Empress, potentially.
Okay.
Pretty much the entire time, Yin is considering them by Emperor and Empress.
Okay, cool.
It also makes our lives easier that it's the Emperor and Empress. So, Yin is engaged to Crown Prince Jean. This takes place after they've been engaged, and the story starts a couple days before her wedding, as she begins to see her reflection reaching out to her. Out through the pond, through the mirrors around her. She breaks every mirror very quickly because she's scared.
Oh, yeah.
After embarrassing herself by getting drunk and stuff on her wedding day in front of her soon-to-be husband, her reflection finally gets her alone and pulls her through the mirror into the mirror world, where she explains that she is dying and needs time in the sun to survive, as the mirror world does not have a sun anymore, which we'll get to that. After some short adventures with the mirror version of her husband and slowly falling in love with him, Ying sees her reflection trying to kill the real Jean and rescues him.
Oh!
I'm sure you get from my vibes that Mirror Her is evil, especially with her trying to kill her. Yeah, just hold on with me. I did enjoy this book. I will say that. This entire thing where she sees her mirror version trying to kill her husband sets her on a journey in which she tries to stop the reflection world from invading her world. During this journey, she discovers a bloody past between the mirror world and her own world, and a plot against the reigning emperor. Her mirror version is using her to break the barrier between the two worlds made 1,000 years ago, as she is the fish meant to do so. There's a reason I say the fish. We'll get into that. Essentially, every time she goes through into the mirror world, well, not into the mirror world, every time she goes back and forth, the barrier between the two worlds breaks apart. So it starts out that only her and her reflection are the two that can go back and forth.
But then others can.
Yeah. Gets easier and easier until you get the idea behind what they're going to do to invade. The idea was to just trick her back and forth, which, like, I don't feel like is a big reveal. Eventually, she is tricked into going between the two worlds enough times, the barrier is broken, and her mirror prince betrays her. The gas. To me, it was very obvious throughout the entire thing that her mirror prince was evil, but to her it was not. To her, he was so kind and sweet compared to her actual prince who locked her up before their wedding day, which we find out why later.
I will say, if someone's being really nice, usually there's a reason. At least in books. I mean, there are people who are nice in the real world, but if they're being too nice...
It's so funny, because he does go out of his way to, like, support her on things, to make her think that he's betrayed his own kind. To me, as somebody who is not a 17-year-old, it's pretty obvious that he's manipulating her, but to her, it makes sense. She's 17, I think. She might be 18.
Yeah, if you don't have a lot of experience in things like relationships and things like that, it is going to be a bit different.
She wanted a fairy tale life, and her main husband wasn't, but the mirror version of her was acting as so. So war starts between the two, and the emperor from her world blames Ying and refuses to believe that the other world, the mirror world, exists. So because he's blaming her, he's locked her up in a tower and starts torturing her by killing her family members and placing her in exile. But killing her family members from the view of the only window in the tower, while torturing her to try and get her to say things. She's got like 5 brothers, and notably only one of her brothers is named. Guess which brother survives? Her parents survive, and she has one brother that survives. And that's it. Well, she has 2 brothers that survive, but again, only one of them's named. Eventually, Ying realizes that she must end the war by way of suicidal ritual that gives her powers like the dragons that she started summoning halfway through the book. She figures out how to turn fish into dragons.
Okay.
There's a couple battles that happen throughout this book, and during the first battle, she figures out how to turn fish into dragons.
Is it like one of those, they worked for it for a while, or is it a spontaneous powers thing?
That is her mirror prince once he betrays her, because the first battle happens as he's betraying her. He drags her through the mirror world the last time to fully break the barrier. Kinda starts drowning her, and as he's trying to drown her, she looks at the fish around her, and she's like, they can be dragons, and they turn into dragons.
Okay.
It's also like this thing of like, I am the fish, I should be able to do this, why can't I do this? I wish I could explain why she just starts saying she's the fish. Past, she was told by Maypow that she's the fish. But that's beyond the point. In the process of going Super Saiyan, she accidentally kills the real Jean. But they are both part of the prophecy because they are now married, because they officially get married. Even with her actually not attending her original wedding ceremony, they do get married towards the end of the book. And he is revived by her love. The war is over, and the plot to kill the Emperor is revealed to be the Empress's plot. His own wife is planning to kill him. And Ying is the one that discovers it.
Does she have a good reason to want to kill him?
It's an alright reason. It's one of those things where, like, feudal-style politics is different than what we might imagine it to be, and sometimes when a 70-year-old man sits on the throne, he should not be on that throne any longer.
Yeah, and I know that, like, historically, there have been several wives and stuff to emperors who have wanted to kill their spouse for various reasons.
Yeah, the Empress is morally gray for her actions. I am not going to condemn her, which is funny because Ying doesn't condemn her either. Her own son wants to condemn her. Her own son is heartbroken and is like, I want you locked up and I'll decide what to do with you. And Ying is like, no. She did a thing that might be helpful. Let's not condemn her right away. Regardless, as they clean up from the war, the very, very ending, which is not something I wasn't expecting this to happen. Jean crowns Ying as the true emperor and himself as consort. Book just has a sudden feminist twist at the end, which it was kind of feminist throughout the whole thing. There's a lot going on in here about how women are treated in society. But the ending right at the very end where she becomes empress did catch me off guard for a hot second. That is my incredibly short summary trying to explain what this is. You might have realized that there was a character I said we should keep in mind that did not show up in the summary, and that would be Maypow. This is fun. This is a dense book. This is 500 pages. How many pages exactly? Oh, 477.
So is the mirror universe is working with the Empress, right?
No, they are two separate entities.
Ah,
The Empress's plot to kill her husband, I forget the exact reasoning why, but essentially he's old and he's not thinking straight, and he is easy to manipulate. He is causing issues by refusing to acknowledge that the mirror world exists.
and then what was the thought process behind the people in the mirror world then?
So the thought process behind the people in the mirror world, I have this entire section called Let's Talk About the Mirror World.
Okay, perfect.
Because the mirror world was very interesting, and I think they did a good job of explaining it, minus one thing. The history of the mirror world is that between the mirror world and what would be our world, but the not mirror world, I don't know what to call it. They just say in the book, our world, or the not mirror world. They don't have a name for their world, but the mirror world is the mirror world. Like I said, interesting. From the beginning of time, the mirror people have always been the doppelganger, transforming into a new form when their real world counterpart died, and carrying the ability to transform into any of their forms with time. So like the older they get, the more forms they get, the more they can transform into different forms.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's really cool. Like there's some good lore here. It's very much said that the people were always curious about the other side of the reflections because for a long time they couldn't interact with each other at all. But then came May Po, very important lady. She's very old. The one we meet in the story, spoiler alert, is always the mirror version. We meet her several times, and the first time we meet her in the mirror world, and she's cold to the touch, and she points and says, remember who the real monsters are, and points at the fact that neither of them have a reflection. And the reason why Ying doesn't have a reflection at that time is because she's not following her reflection around. Her reflection just did her marriage ceremony, and she didn't follow her reflection around, so she's not seeing her reflection for good reason, but we see that May Po also doesn't have a reflection. And then we see May Po again in the real world, and that's just the mirror world version of her. What happened was that she fell in love with a man from the normal, I hate saying normal world, our world, so on and so forth, and figured out how to use alchemy to move between the two worlds. So she could just move between the two worlds at ease. She knows how to make other people do it. She just doesn't. She's the one betrayer of her own kind. But she fell in love with this man. She went to the emperor of the real world, who is called the Crimson Emperor, who like united all of the kingdoms and was really powerful, and asked if she could marry the man from his world. But she was the counterpart to the really old emperor's consort, and so that would make things tricky, and he said no and started killing people that she loves.
Oh.
Just a crazy old man that's obsessed with control, essentially. He kills her lover and she freaks out. So she starts a little war, loses the war, but manages to grab her counterpart and kill her counterpart. And notably, I did say when their counterpart dies, you go and become a new creature.
Yeah.
The explanation for why she's still in the form that she is that when she killed her counterpart, she disrupted the cycle. And supposedly she can't transform into anything else, but she does transform into a white fox at some point in the story. But that's not explained at all. So she can't become a new form anymore. The mirror world does not win that war. I might have just said that, but they don't win the original war. And the emperor, who is the original Crimson Emperor from hundreds of years ago, uses alchemy to seal the worlds so that nobody can move between them except for May Po with her own alchemy, obviously. But he doesn't just seal them. This guy's a fucking asshole. He goes farther than that. The seal forces the mirror world counterparts to follow their doppelgangers. So, like, the doppelgangers have to do everything the other person does, as long as there is a reflection nearby. And if they aren't, they are inflicted in terrible pain.
Oh.
And he destroyed their son. So that's why they don't have a son. And they need a son to have their powers. Without their son, they don't have powers. And so, like, he just inflicted them ridiculous amounts of pain for no reason and destroyed their form of sustenance and locked all of the monsters from our, like, the not mirror world into the mirror world. Luckily, the monsters from the not mirror world don't like mirror people because the mirror people are, they're like glass. They're cold to the touch. You can't slice them. You have to beat them with a hammer, so on and so forth. And the monsters are like, we like fleshy people. We like to eat flesh.
Yeah, I feel like if he just hadn't done a bunch of shit, they might have just left people alone.
Yeah, you can see why they wanted to conquer our world, and yeah,
Yeah.
I have a lot of notes on this. Holy macaroni and cheese. There's a few major flaws with all this world building. The main one is that they make it clear that the reflection world relies on the normal world to build things and to get dressed into different clothes. Things and
That's a
drawers
bit weird.
only appear when someone from the normal world interacts with it. And I really don't know if that was a thing prior to the events between Maypo and the original Emperor. They don't clarify that.
Yeah. I feel like since he's the one who made it so they had to mimic the behavior, it might have started with him.
Maybe.
I also feel like that would suck.
Yeah, more reasons why the reflection world hates the non-reflect. Like, everything about the reflections makes sense. Like, they're portrayed as all of them except for Maypo being so evil that they can't really do anything about it. But, like, I respect them to a certain degree. I get it. Even with my one qualm of them never fully explaining it, we can get the idea that it was probably caused by the Emperor. Also, the fact that it parallels history of between what's going on in the book and our own world. The main thing that I think of when I'm hearing like this sort of events is the themes of reprimanding after a war and the clear slavery of the mere world.
Yeah.
There's a few examples I can think of, but historically speaking, over reprimanding a country post-war is a tried and true method to make another war happen. What did he expect? Power hungry, evil man, does evil thing, consequences happen.
Yeah, I mean that's part of why World War II became a big thing was because of the over reprimanding of Germany.
Mm-hmm. And to be fair, the Nazis are kind of very evil compared to what the average German was before World War II. Well, not even before World War II, before the Hitler regime. So we can also see this parallel of like they are becoming naturally more evil because what else do they have?
Yeah, and there is a lot to say for when someone is in a state of oppression, the only way to really show and get your freedoms from that state would be going and, forcing the other hand. That's why silent protesting only does so much.
Yeah, I think something interesting is I didn't think about this before, but I'm thinking about it now. And it's not in my notes. So there's two people who actually, in canon, betray the mirror world. There's Maypo, who is the entire reason that the conflict happened in the first place. But again, her actions are pretty understandable.
Yeah.
The mirror reflection version of one of Ying's ladies in waiting. This is because while she is in the mirror world for the first time, before she meets the mirror prince, she is hiding to make sure nobody sees her. And one of the maids realizes she's in the room with her and tries to warn her, hey, you should not be here. You should not stay in the mirror world. You need to go and not come back. And she's not thinking much about it until later in the book. It's revealed that that specific mirror person was tortured for saying that, just for saying that. That's why later, when they are trying to grab a maid of hers to convince her to come back through and save the maid, they grab that specific, not mirror version of the maid so that they can justify what they're doing. It really shows that the people in power are the people that are driving this really horrible nature, that the average person doesn't have to want to go along with the evil nature of the regime, but is at times forced to. And notably, we decided post-World War II that saying that it was an order is not enough, because you can always defy an order.
Yes.
It was a good way of showing that not every person in the mirror world is on board with what's going on.
Yeah, there are those that agree with the motivations behind it, and that's something that a lot of people who did try to say, oh well, I was just following orders, that wasn't a good enough excuse, because a lot of them believed the propaganda that they were following, specifically a lot of the higher ups. And even when some of the higher ups did happen to have inklings of, oh, well, this isn't right or whatever, it was very rare.
Yeah.
But at the same time, they did not have the same amount of fear and lack of choice that people in like the USSR had.
Yeah.
In the USSR, you could not question anything. In Germany, you were able to. Like, people did ask Hitler questions and say, that's not a good idea, things like that. Mind you, a lot of it was about things like going and attacking specific regions or things like that. It was not about treatment of people they considered subhuman.
Yeah. I don't think there's a perfect, if there is a perfect real world parallel, it is not one that I know. There could be a perfect real world parallel somewhere in Chinese history that I don't know. I like Chinese history. It is a very long history, a very ancient area of the world. I'm not going to say country because that is really demeaning to the fact that China is so diverse and has so many different ethnic groups inside of it.
There's also, China has a lot of recorded history.
Yeah.
A lot of other regions didn't record history. That's why China and Egypt are some of the biggest ones that we know the history of.
Yeah, that's why we're also learning about Mesopotamia so much now, because we've found records.
The ancient Greeks to the ancient Greeks.
Well, the Indo-Europeans to the Indo-Europeans. Mesopotamia is not necessarily Greek yet, but they are Indo-European, which is what the Greeks are also, eventually. But that's a history lesson for another time. When Mei-Po went to war with the normal world, she only brings 1,000 people to fight with her and was quickly defeated by overwhelming force. Their sons still existed back then, so they still had more powers than they did. The book is balancing this idea that the overzealous punishment of the mirror world was because of a power-hungry man, because only 1,000 people rising up against you in war is not justification for enslaving an entire group of people. But then also villainizes almost every single person in the mirror world.
It's a bit weird. I mean, I understand that to certain people, enslaved groups rising up can make them view them as evil, destructive. We saw that with the misinformation of Black Lives Matter protests.
Yeah.
But it's also one of those, maybe they're doing it as a commentary more so than, that's their actual thoughts. It is a bit of a interesting thing to debate. Because you could also have it as, this is the viewpoint of, the main character, that sort of thing. But, I don't know, people who are oppressed rising up in order to get the rights they deserve, I feel like shouldn't be demonized. I mean, there's a reason the first Pride Parade was a riot.
I agree with that sentiment. I also feel frustrated that there's no reparations for the humiliation and enslavement of the Mir people. They don't get their son back. They don't have to mimic everybody anymore. That's the one thing, is that when she sealed it again, she sealed it so that they wouldn't have to mimic people and they can go live their lives however they please. But there's no real reparations for the Mirror World. In theory, they might be able to build their own stuff again. They might be able to actually clothe themselves without waiting for somebody else to open the drawer. But there's no confirmation. There is confirmed they never get their son. Their son is dead. They can't get them a son.
How does the lack of sun affect, are they not allowed to, grow food and stuff like that?
They don't eat. They don't need to eat. Their source of food is basically the sun. So they have to get their food through reflections now.
Oh, that's rude.
Yeah.
I hope you have a mirror facing a kitchen.
Well, they don't need to eat at all. In fact, the Mirror Prince at the beginning of the book forgets that he needs to eat until he hears her stomach growl and goes, let's see if I can go to the kitchen and find something for you.
Okay.
Which he does. It just takes him a while.
What does the sun do to benefit them, I guess? I think you said that it's their source of power at one point?
Their source of power, it's kind of inferenced that, they use the sun to eat and to power themselves. It makes their healing more effective, so on and so forth.
So it is something that they need.
Mm-hmm.
So I wonder what they're going to do now to replace that.
Yeah. They say that they usually get their sun, their powers from the sun by standing near reflections during the day, but it's not as powerful of actually having a normal sun.
Get them some sun lamps for plants. But that also sucks because then you have to spend part of your day just chilling by a mirror.
Yeah, it's weird. It's not, to the book's credit, I don't think that this is supposed to be political commentary. The political commentary section is pretty obviously the Empress trying to kill the Emperor. But it feels lackluster that the book doesn't address the fact that there is obvious political happenings going on with the war, because it's a war.
It feels like they should have had it more from the perspective of someone from the Mirror universe, in my opinion.
Yeah.
You know, rather than having it be from the group that is benefiting off of the Mirror universe not having its full capabilities.
Yeah. To be fair, it is a romantasy first and foremost.
That is true.
Young adult romantasy. So it's not like there's no adultness. There's references to them having sex later in the book, but it's like you don't see it on page because teenagers.
But to be fair, teenagers also do that type of stuff. People don't like to think about it.
You know, I'm fine with some teenage sex representation as long as it's not on the page. Like, referencing to teenagers doing things, especially, like, they're married.
I also prefer Fade to Black anyway.
I prefer Fade to Black, too.
But also, adults reading teenagers having sex is a bit weird.
It is.
I have read fan fiction and stuff like that, but I was also a teenager reading teenage fan fiction.
Yeah, same. I appreciate when books are realistic in the fact that it does not shy away from the fact that kids have sex. But I also love that it does not show it so that I do not have to read it.
Yeah, I would rather read it than see it on, like, in a movie, but I also tend to just skim it in the first place.
I'd rather have neither.
Yeah.
Both are pretty uncomfy.
It is becoming more common to have it in books, too.
Mm-hmm.
And while I appreciate a good book that has, you know, some sexual tension and then a fade to black, because I feel like that is a lot more effective than actually having the scene.
Agreed.
I also feel like people who write erotic scenes are usually sexually deprived people who don't necessarily know how it works.
Also that it makes more money to write erotic scenes.
It does nowadays. And I don't know, it's also, I know that smut's been around for years. I mean, there were smutty books that women read back in the day. I don't know, maybe it's an Ace thing. I have to be in the mood for reading it or really feel the chemistry between the people.
I feel you. It's hard to get a good sex scene. And I'm tired of shitty sex scenes.
Yeah, or, you know, it lasts forever, or they do multiple sessions. I don't know about other men. That's not how it usually works, though. For, you know, men being able to go off and then do it again right after.
There's a few men who can do that, but most can't.
You have to do it right, and a lot of people don't do it right. I also tend to skim it because unless I'm in that perfect window, I don't really give a shit. I'm not your target audience, I'm sorry.
The target audience of most sex in books is straight white women.
The most young adults need to know is use protection, please.
Yeah.
While I am not an advocate for like things like underage pregnancy, I fully am aware kids do it. I went to school. I was a teenager at one point. I wasn't doing it, but my classmates were doing it. There were 13 people that had been in my class at one point that had had kids before we graduated high school. Okay.
Wait, your class was size 28 people. That is almost half of your class.
Graduating class, there was 42. But we also had, like, people that left.
That's a lot more people than your school normally gets.
Yes. And some of them had multiple children by the time we graduated.
My school had more than 13 people, but I had a graduating class of 500 and something.
That to be said, it does happen in teenagers, but teenagers don't need to be reading kinky, weird things that probably are unhealthy, like degrading the woman and things like that. Looking at you, Sarah J. Maas. We will get to you. You will become a topic of conversation. It will pain me. So is there any other parts about the book that I should know about? And your rating of it?
Okay.
We haven't even gotten to your rating.
Yeah, we haven't gotten to my rating yet. But I will tell you, this story was sold as a retelling. And I kind of figured out what the retelling was halfway through, but I had to double check and like look into it to make sure I wasn't appropriating anything or misunderstanding anything. You know what a Magikarp is?
A Magikarp?
Yeah.
Yeah, the orange Pokemon that and then turns into a snake thing and then almost kills Team Rocket.
It turns into a dragon.
Yes.
Yeah, so Magikarp is a retelling of a myth, and this is a retelling of the same myth that Magikarp is based off of, called the Lawn Men, or the Dragon Gate Waterfall, in which a cart jumps over a giant waterfall, and when it jumps over the giant waterfall, it turns into a dragon.
I did not know that was a thing.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say it. That's why she's the fish! Like, I was like, why is it fish specifically? And then she turns the fish into a dragon. I'm like, oh my god, it's a Magikarp.
Honestly, I was not sold on reading this book, but now I am sold on buying this book, giving it to my husband, and telling him it is a Magikarp fan fiction.
Oh my god!
And watching his confusion.
Can he not hear you from the other room right now?
He can hear me, he can't hear you because of my headphones.
Beautiful.
He's probably playing Pokemon right now, actually.
Probably. Yeah. This is a retelling of the Dragon Gate Waterfall.
I love this.
I do too. Technically, I do read a lot of retellings. I think the last one of Earthly Delights is officially a retelling, but I can't remember what it was a retelling of. Oh, it was a retelling of that Jewish legend.
Yes, the Jewish legend. I love retellings. There is a series I have on my Kindle that I will eventually do for this because they're retellings of, the stories that the Disney movies are based off of. Let's be honest, all of our favorite movies from our childhood are retellings, and they're amazingly done. There are few times where I see retelling and I'm like, yeah, this is, they have a lot of original material, stuff like that. This series is so well done that while I know it is retellings, it feels like its own thing. And there is a little bit of that can be said for, like, the Twisted Tales that I want to do. And they're each separate, so you can do an episode on just one book. My favorite one happens to be the Cinderella one. It is really good. The most disappointing one I have read so far was the Beauty and the Beast one, actually.
Beauty and the Beast and Cinderella are like the two most retold stories in existence. Even with this, you can claim it is one of those two at the same time of being the Dragon Gate Waterfall.
I thought you were going to say it was an Alice Through the Looking Glass. So I was shooketh when you said it was Magikarp.
I said Magikarp and you were like, what?
It's like when I learned Ponyo is a retelling of The Little Mermaid. Like, I kind of understand that. But it's wild, man.
Oh, yeah,
Miyazaki had to be on drugs when watching The Little Mermaid. It was wild.
I would like to say, this book does have LGBT representation.
We love
it. Not main character LGBT representation. Our leading lady, her handmaids are lesbians that love each other. And there's a slight B plot about how she's confused what's going on between them. And it's pretty obvious from the get-go what's going on between them. But she's confused what's going on between them.
You know what? They were co-workers.
I love you getting really close to your mic for that. And they were co-workers. But yes, the lesbian side story was extra representation that was thrown in just because. And I appreciate it. They have this whole thing where she suddenly realizes what's going on. And she's like, oh, you guys are great. I support and respect this. And then they don't go and tell everybody else, but at the very least, the people most important to them, i.e. their boss, who is also their friend.
Well, I also think that wasn't very common in China as well.
No, I mean, there is that legend of the Chinese emperor who had his gay lover, and his gay lover fell asleep on his sleeve.
The one that, now there's a lot of cat pictures with that.
Yeah, you cut off the sleeve.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's actually a book that has that in that. My friend's borrowing it, so when I get it back, I have words.
Perfect. Beautiful. Yes, please.
But yeah, I know that LGBT relationships, historically, now you can't have them, sadly. I believe you still can't have them in China. Historically, they were uncommon, and there was a bit of stigma on them as well. There's a book that I was reading that has historical accuracies when it comes to that aspect. I'll have to do a thing on it, because there's a mini-series that they're in. But it was two consorts who happened to fall in love with each other. So they didn't give a shit that the emperor did not call them to his bedroom, and his official bride person, favorite consort person, happened to like watching. Having it so that the two maids only tell specific people makes so much sense.
I don't mind it.
I love when writers look at how things would be in the historical context and apply it and don't just all of it.
It feels like it's better representation than the book we just reviewed an hour ago.
It also, being able to do that, you're able to go in, and I say this, I'm gonna nerd out for a second. I say this with Babylon 5 all the time. He based a lot of the different alien races and cultures on real world ones. And that makes it feel so much more realistic and how it would be if we did come across other alien races and things like that. But it also means you're able to look at it and understand it better without having to go into too much detail. He also has a lot of the political commentary in it where he based it on history. And because he based it on history, it feels like that, yeah, that is something that could happen. And a lot of it is happening right now. But you're able to identify with it a lot. And he doesn't just have it for the human race as well, where all this is happening. He has it for the alien races and things like that. So it's one of those things where basing a book off of history and how things were, like how Margaret Atwood did with The Handmaid's Tale, she based it off of history, real world events. So when you're reading it, you do get that sense of this can happen, this has happened. It's not fantasy, which makes it even scarier at the same time. I feel like I'm not describing it as well as I hope I can, so I hope it comes across how I want it to.
I wish that this story did a better job at mixing the fact that it's just being a retelling with the politics that are presented in it, more than just the politics it was actually commenting on. Because at the end of the day, the actual thematic politics that I could see was a lot of feminist, just like how we treat women. That's why May Poe is the way that she is. The lesbian characters felt like a good addition to add to how we treat women. And then, of course, the Empress killing her own husband at the end with lead poisoning. She did it over a long period of time. Holy shit.
It happens.
Like, nobody would have known if Ying didn't research alchemy in order to figure out what being the fish was about.
Yeah, the fish thing kind of feels like it's out of left field, not gonna lie.
I mean, yeah, the fact that they were just like, you are the fish, and the fish is the person who does it. Like, I didn't understand it until she turned the fish into a dragon. Like, oh, okay, she's a fish because it's a retelling.
I just want to walk up to someone and be like, you are the fish.
You are the fish. Other themes that are presented are like true love, standing by those you love, bettering the world for all, and not giving in to revenge.
To be fair, sometimes revenge is needed.
Revenge is sometimes needed. Reparations should have been made to the mere world. But not a lot, because obviously they did some pretty fucked up things. Yay, I'm a sacrifice is pretty much what Ying realized partway through the book.
Yeah, all I'm thinking about is Harry Potter now.
Fair, valid.
So what did you rate this? Because you said that you liked it.
I did like it. I put it at a 3.5. It didn't have as clear of a theme as I wanted it to. It had all of this interesting world building, and then the payoff at the end for the world building, yes, it was super interesting and kept me hooked, and the world building was a major thing that had kept me hooked. It felt like it didn't address the war elephant in the room.
Especially since that seems like it's such a big, major thing.
I feel like if it addressed it a little bit better, this would be a higher rating. I like the feminist vibes, though the ending of her becoming Empress didn't feel that earned.
What happened to the Empress that did, try to killed her husband and stuff?
She killed her husband, and she's now the Emperor's Dowager.
Because I feel like they could have just made the other Empress.
No, she killed her husband so that her son would take the throne.
Oh, okay. That makes more sense.
Because her son was more mentally sound than the Emperor. And also, let's be honest, as much as she says the son is more mentally sound than her husband, hot take, you can more easily manipulate your son if you kill your husband.
Yeah.
I find it to be a good example of feudal-style politics, especially since it's very open-ended what happens to her.
And open endings can be really nice. They can also leave it lacking as well, depending on how it's done.
To be fair, on certain end, John does pick up Ying and set her on the throne when everybody calls him emperor and goes like, no, she is your emperor. And then she's like, oh no, empress, because women can have power too. And his whole reasoning is that like, oh, you just saved the world. So the person who saved the world should be the person who becomes the new leader. But at the same time, I don't feel like that's justification, you know?
Yeah, I mean, just because you saved the world, partially because you were the chosen one, doesn't mean you should necessarily be in charge of a fuck ton of people when you know nothing about how to run a country.
Yeah, that's exactly how I feel. But yeah, 3.5.
Okay, that's not too bad. I just want to pick this book up and hand it to my husband. It'll take him like 2 years to read it. But that's because he doesn't read books a lot.
Fair. Tell him it's a Magikarp retelling.
He can't do audiobooks because he gets too distracted by the audiobooks when he's working. He's partially through a book right now. I think he just forgets that he's been reading it because it's on the bookshelf instead of on a table.
That does make sense.
All right. So the next episode we will be recording will be Raising the Horseman, the book I'm currently reading by Serena Valentino. Because it's spooky season, guys. It's spooky season. There are Halloween decorations in the store, and honestly, I've been feeling it since mid-August for the sheer fact of I was outside and the wind was winding, and I'm like, that is an autumn breeze. And then the leaves were scattering along the ground, and yeah, it was a very autumn breeze. It's very spooky.